All right, we're back here at the Nerd Rage Gaming 5K Chicago weekend. I'm here with Shane Downey. This is Shane's last round. We're heading into round 5 of the Swiss, and the players are sitting down for this round. But I want to talk a minute about us being back here in Paper Magic again. And there's a lot of, uncertainty on where Paper Magic is going, as we're not exactly coming out of the pandemic with flying colors, and whether there's a market for it and what tournament operators are still going to be running in the future. Shane, let's talk a minute about, and if the chat wants to pitch your ideas in the chat too, we're not going to be reading them directly, but staff will, and we'll all go back and review them later on. Like, what are you looking for in events from now on? Are you looking for like local events that you can go to once a month? Are you looking for big events you can travel to once every 3 months? Like, what do you want?
Honestly, I don't think I want anything that hasn't existed before.
Right. Okay.
If you think about the old PTQ system, like it felt special.
Yeah.
And I know we both participated in the Las Vegas event recently, and a few bucks in your pocket is nice if you win that tournament, but it doesn't lead to anything.
Yeah.
And I think what's really important in any sort of organized play environment is the opportunity to have a chain of events that matter and each have an impact on each other. And that's something that, for my time in competitive Magic, that was always a thing up until recently. And I know you participated in a variety of series over the years. And yeah, that gives you a huge incentive when you feel like you're playing towards some sort of end goal, as opposed to individual events that at the end of the day, sure, money's nice and there might be some other accolades attached to that. But ultimately, you want to have the opportunity to chain events and have the event feel like it's working towards some sort of bigger structure.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good answer. And even one thing on top of that is, yeah, events that mean something, and events that, like, if you win a local event, I mean, that's great, good for you. But also, like, there's a sense of pride that's involved with succeeding in like a series of events or something that's like feels like it has a bigger stage that may not exist at an FNM, or, I mean, and different players at different experience levels are going to take pride in different levels of achievements, and that's fine. But for entrenched players who have been around for several years, I'm looking for something where if I come away from the event with a good finish, not necessarily even winning, but if I cash a big event like the equivalent of like what a Grand Prix used to be, I feel good about myself. I feel like, yeah, I put work into this event and I'm proud of what I did. And that's a feeling that, is kind of missed now. And like in Las Vegas last weekend that you talked about, you know, it only goes as far as it went itself. And like there's no coverage of it. And it's not like I need to be on camera or anything, but it is cool to feel like you're participating in a big production. And I'm not sure that Las Vegas felt that way for me. All right, so we're get round 5 ready to go. So really, if you're in chat and you're listening right now, if you guys start up a conversation in the chat, and we'll definitely go back and look at it later on. Like, what do you want in an event? Do you just want, relatively frequent smaller events? Do you want larger, like, what formats do you want to be playing? Like, this is all kind of stuff. Like, the Nerd Rage is going into planning for our events for the next year, and it's not certain what people even want anymore, and what they're comfortable with in Magic, and that's something that that we want to know. So if you have opinions, and you could also tweet at the NRG series account and just let us know what it is you want. It doesn't even have to be like what you think other people want, just what you want yourself, and maybe we'll take things into account. Suggestions come from all over the place. Okay, so we've got our players on the table getting ready to go. So let's go ahead and take us to the match. We've got Caleb Durward versus Spencer Wilson. We've got 4-color Ramp versus Boros Burn. 4-color Ramp could take on many forms without deck list. I don't know exactly what's going to be in there. If it's a Primeval Titan deck, if it's just a 4-color Scape Shift deck, could be a Bring to Light Omnath deck. Any of that, Boros Burn is probably going to be looking to go under.
Yeah, and one thing of note, wrapping up that conversation, I think Wizards was getting some things right prior to COVID potentially interrupting some things. Like, I personally did not like the PPTQ system at all. We're both a little older now, and it's hard to dedicate essentially 2 weekends to try to qualify for the Pro Tour.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't a big fan. And they did bring back the old PTQ system, which I never had a problem with. So
Right.
it's always nice, the old PTQ system, in the sense that even if you don't win, if your town or your city only has 1 or 2 PTQs in a season, you're kind of rooting for the winner in your town.
Yeah.
To do well at the Pro Tour, and you might have that rooting interest just based on that.
Yeah, that is cool, and that definitely used to be the case. All right, so we see here, turn 1 fetch for a mountain for Spencer Wilson and suspend Rift Bolt. And again, we talked about this before. The ideal start is probably a Goblin Guide or a Monastery Swift Spear, but at least we're using our mana. We got Rift Bolt ready to go, and Caleb Durward moving into turn 2 now knows what he's playing against, and it's just another tap land, trying to conserve as many life points as possible, as the burn deck is going to be taking them off in chunks of 3 probably for the most part, and so 6 or 7 spells is going to add up to 20, which is how much life Caleb Durward has to play with.
Yeah, so you see Spencer Wilson, our burn player here at 4-0. Burn having a lot of success, at least on camera here today.
Yeah, no kidding. Now this turn 2 suspend Rift Bolt is much more dangerous because its Fairy Time Raveler mana is now going to be available, and that can just swallow up a suspended Rift Bolt for free, and that's obviously not what Spencer Wilson wants to have happen here. But with the speed of Caleb, if Caleb Durward had a Teferi, his decision would have been easy there. So clearly not the case. Rift Bolt comes off. Yeah, go ahead.
He may not have had Teferi, but he did draw Lightning Helix, which is always a good draw against a burn player.
Definitely. That's just like a built-in 2-for-1 when your life total matters. Slow start on both sides here. Spencer Wilson passes the turn, and that's only good for one of these players. I imagine whatever Caleb Durward has, the contents of his deck are happy to play a longer game, and Spencer Wilson, that's just unlikely to be the case. Caleb fires off Helix, padding his life total, and then fetches out a Ketria Triumph. And now, I mean, there's going to be some. I mean, the biggest life gain spell that Spencer Wilson's probably going to be afraid of here is an Omnath, which, if a Caleb has, may not be deployed this turn anyway, as to protect it for a land drop the following turn. But let's see. Do we have expressive iteration here for Caleb? No, we just have a Manamorphose. That is interesting. And there's a Valakut.
So yeah, Manamorphose not a card that is explicitly played in this kind of strategy.
Right.
But has some value here.
Yeah. Now, I would say what's becoming a more common version of 4-color Omnath does play expressive iterations, but does not play Valakuts. So Caleb Durward has got a mix of different kind of base shells here working together. And the selection off of expressive iteration is that a Strike It Rich?
It is a Strike It Rich.
Okay, so this is
so yeah, go ahead.
This is an Indomitable Creativity deck then.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So and the treasure is, let's see, what do we got? Okay, so now we've identified what's going on. Here is the Valakut with 3 other mountains in play. And I don't know what that org is. That just a light? No. What is that?
Well, he definitely pointed at Caleb, so clearly it's a burn spell. It may have been a Lightning Helix?
That's what I'm guessing also, but I'm not 100% sure. 4th land drop for Spencer Wilson, though, for a burn deck that's, with none of them being Horizon lands, this is not great. And there's a Lava Spike, so Caleb drops to 10, I believe, and that's, well, okay, and pick up Luris. Okay.
Gonna grab the Luris.
Yeah, so that's turn is, all right. But Caleb's been looking to really put a hurting on Spencer with either an Indomitable Creativity. That was a Teferi drawn for the turn. Caleb's hand is pretty packed with spells. A couple of them may be removal spells, which are of no value at the moment. But Spencer's probably uncomfortable with the position right now, as Caleb seems to be stabilized at 10. Make it 9. So that's a little softer, as now 3 running bolts, or 3 bolts, not necessarily rough, but we get it done. This is a it's Dwarven Mine, I believe, is the one where you get a token if you have 3 other mountains in play.
Exactly, and this is a key piece to this kind of strategy.
Yeah, so it's really without this enabler, this anomalous creativity, which is a sorcery that costs, I believe, maybe we can bring that up. Indomitable creativity. I believe is it 3 red and then 2x, or 3 red and 1x.
Yeah, I believe just 1x and 3 red.
Yeah.
And we might see it here shortly.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to start with Hard Evidence, it looks like. Now, I know you didn't play much Modern Horizons 2 Limited, and by not much, I mean not at all. But Hard Evidence, MH2 Limited All-Star.
So we're out of this, we're getting, I believe, an 03 crab and a clue.
Correct.
And then here we go with Indomitable Creativity on sacrificing the dwarf token and the clue. So this is Indomitable Creativity for 2, which means Kildor is going to go through his deck and find the top 2 creatures in the deck, and I would be not at all surprised if there are exactly 2 in the deck.
Yeah,
I believe
so
some build. Oh no, okay, this is a Titan version, so there may be more. There are some versions that just run an Emrakul and a Sarah's impossible to beat card. Instead, we're just going to see 2 Titans, and then some shuffling and 4 lands entering play, which is, let's see, probably going to be lethal.
Yeah, so Valakut's going to do some work here. I know you've played a lot of Valakut in Modern recently, but a very different kind of strategy going on here.
Right. So there's the second and third Valakut. There's 4 mountains in play. So if Caleb touches up 2 mountains here, they will be seen to enter simultaneously and each see 5 other mountains in play, thus triggering 9 each. So this would actually be 18. So Spencer's not going to die yet. So really all Caleb achieved this turn was shutting off Spencer's future fetch lands. It was a reasonable turn.
Caleb doesn't know Spencer's hand, but I mean, it's conceivable that he could win this turn with Caleb at 9, but nope. He draws, takes a look, and that's not going to cut it.
Yeah. I'm sure Caleb was suspicious when Spencer picked up the Loris that there wasn't a whole lot of action going on there. But that's going to conclude game 1. If we have deck lists, let's take a look. Okay, we don't have deck lists at the moment, but okay, so it sounds like we'll have them momentarily. So no real reason to speculate on all the cards in the deck when we're going to see it in a minute anyway. But yeah, these players 4-0. We are in the midst of 9 rounds of Swiss today. So sometimes when you get towards, you're in round 5, you're undefeated, you're thinking, okay, if I win 1 or 2 more, I can, draw in. Not so much today. We've got a lot of Magic left to play. What's if you're playing in an event, Lashane, like what do you think is there an ideal number of rounds that you would want to play in a day? Because I have an answer for myself, but I'm
That's
curious.
Interesting. I don't know that I've given it too much thought just because it's so out of your control. But
yeah,
if it's a 1-day event, I think 8 rounds top 8 is pretty nice. But I don't know that I have much of a preference overall.
Yeah, I think 8 rounds cut to top 8 is a good number. I also think that's the limit. We're running 9 here today, and that's just, that's great. We're happy to have all the players we have here today. But for me as a player, 8 rounds cut to top 8 is good. I have once in my life played 12 rounds in 1 day. It was a night, and So we're going back down to the table, and we'll go and bring up Blossoming Calm if we can, just to make sure that's the right card, even though I'm fairly confident that it is. And Spencer Wilson, do we have a creature this time? Yes, we do. Okay, Goblin gets in there. Okay, what do you mean I take all the point now? But yes, it is now. It's not. We don't each take one on Wilson's turn. Is each player takes one on their own turn. So Caleb drops 9 with an abundance of cards in hand. And here is the Lightning Helix. So Caleb will go to 12.
Yeah, Caleb's got to feel pretty good where he's at here.
Yeah. Yes, I would agree.
He has a fistful of cards. His life total is fairly healthy. He has a couple clues, and of course, the crab token being the most important permanent on the battlefield. He did miss a land drop, I believe.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Well, Spencer's missed a land drop.
Yeah, there's spells flying back and forth,
yeah,
but not a lot of land drops here in the early action of this game. And that's despite some Goblin Guide triggers.
It's true. An Arid Mace. All right, so here's the Lava Spike. Durward at 12, fetching here to 11. Blossoming Calm.
We're gonna get to see Blossoming Calm.
I mean, Blossoming Calm here with all, but just in the game. Off of basic planes. Okay, let's take a Foundry. I don't think there is any effective counter to Blossoming Calm out of a burn deck. But if there was, it would be exciting.
And there it is.
Okay, time to face the music. Blossoming Calm counters. Lava Spike. Durward back to 11. Then we'll untap and go back to 13. There's no effective attack for the Goblin Guide. Durward will take 1 from the Rolling Vortex. Okay. I guess he's not necessarily going to go back to 13, as the Vortex can prevent that if Spencer's willing to take a pain from that Horizon land.
I'd have to imagine you have to use it here.
Yeah, I agree.
What happened to the rebound there?
I'm not sure.
Did we forget about it?
I mean, it's sitting right there. Well, there's Valakut, so we've definitely, yeah, we may have. Yeah, this isn't like on the turn of your choice you can rebound. It's the next turn. Well, at some point, one of the players is going to notice that, and then we'll figure out whether we're missing something. I mean, we
have a backup Blossoming Calm, so maybe we'll have an opportunity for a rebound once again. This is still
that first
Caleb's turn, so he passed the turn. Spencer
is that first card not
Blossoming Calm was first, and then Lightning Helix.
Is that first card not a Blossoming Calm? I mean, it looks different, but I think that's just a different coloring of the card. I don't think it's a different actual spell. I don't want to get too hung up on this, but there's not a whole lot of action coming here from Spencer Wilson. So let's see.
And once again, we see no rebound.
Do we just we're missing something here? I assume. I'm sure chat is screaming about it right now, trying to type loud enough that I'll hear them. But are we Have we confused ourselves?
It's worth pointing out. Rebound is a May ability, but I can't imagine there's any reason Caleb wouldn't want to cast it.
Yeah, I mean the Roiling Vortex could be active life gain, but you're still taxing your opponent's resources while giving up nothing yourself. So I don't know.
Yeah, so those Calms are just going to remain in exile at this point. We've passed the stage of them potentially rebounding. But moving on beyond that, we have a cracked clue now, and Caleb's just in firm control.
Yeah, absolutely. We're being told that the stream is struggling right now due to the hotel internet here in Mundelein, Illinois, going through a rough patch. Apparently, I don't know if that means the last few minutes or the whole round or what, but I'm being told that we're working with the site to fix the problem, so we're just going to have to struggle through it for the moment. I don't have any idea how bad it is, but if the chat wants to type loudly on that, we'll try and solve it as fast as we can. Anyway, back to the game. Boris Charm. Oh no. And that's it. Spencer Wilson's 3 blossoming columns was 2 more than I could handle already. Caleb Dorward looks like he's ready to continue playing. Spencer Wilson, not so much.
Yeah, we really saw the blossoming columns coming up huge there.
Yeah.
That's a card that not a lot of people might be familiar with, but it can have a huge impact when playing against this burn deck. And, a lot of people say that if you come prepared, you can beat burn. And safe to say Caleb was prepared.
Yes, and then some. He might have 5 cards more than he needed there. Just the lightning helix, the early blockers, blossoming columns in large quantities. That was kind of a shellacking. So, okay, the backup match on. So instead of trying to entertain some topic, I think we're going to say goodbye to Shane and then see what we can do about fixing the internet here. Again, I don't know how bad the problem is, but I'm told there are complaints. So, Shane, thanks for being here. That was great. I don't know if anyone can even hear us right now. I don't know how bad this is, but I'm glad you got to cast a limited match with us because I know that's probably your preferred format. And when you were here with us the first time, and I said, what do you love about Magic? And you're like, I love limited. And I was like, oh, this is a constructed broadcast. But today we did limited, and yeah, this. So what are your thoughts? So while you're here, before we bring back Ian, Matt, how do you feel about it?
I have mixed feelings. I played a lot of it in preparation for the Vegas event that we played in last weekend, and there are a number of really good and even the limited coverage that we covered limited in the top 8. We saw it with Alana and Elena, I believe it's called.
Right. Yes.
Cards like there are extremely powerful mythic rares that are 6 or 7 mana that can have a huge impact on the game. But there's extremely powerful rares in this set that are sometimes 3 or 4 mana, and there's not as much interaction as there has been in certain sets in recent memory. So I like it, like the werewolf mechanic, but if I had any complaints overall, it'd just be there's so many rares that have such a big impact on the board that are hard to recover from.
Yeah, I actually like this set a lot also. I've probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 drafts so far. I've enjoyed it a lot. I haven't played any sealed. And I think sealed is where you're really going to feel the impact of the bombs because everyone's going to play all the ones they have. Whereas, for example, in our Type 8 draft, there was a Toxrill, which is one of the unbeatable bombs that you're referring to, and they drafted, and it didn't end up in anybody's deck. So, that is just more likely to happen in draft. Also, the decks are going to be more fluid and probably more focused, and you're not always going to allow someone to survive until turn 6 or 7. But yeah, I like the werewolf mechanic. I liked it a lot the first time around in original Innistrad. Hunt Master of the Fells, that's a card I'm never going to forget. Innistrad Crimson Vow, obviously we have werewolves back. The blood mechanic, I know we've talked about, is great for allowing players anything that allows you to play extra land in a sealed deck beyond 17. I think is good, whether it's cycling or blood or anything else it could be. Over the double face cards, I think all of them are positive on a format. You agree with that? I think.
Yes, definitely. I think I like blood a little more than cycling. I don't like the 1 mana cycling cards that you have in your deck, regardless of what the text is. But I definitely love blood, and my only complaint about blood is because of the flavor of this set and then the name of the tokens. It seems unlikely that we'll see it that much in the future. Obviously, if we return to Innistrad, hopefully we see it again. But it's a mechanic that I think is very well suited for limited overall.
Yeah, I agree. And it feels like the fact that it's cheaper and less of an advantage than clues, I actually like it more, because clues can also help you bail you out if you're like land shy, but it's just you're using your whole turn, really. And blood gives you the mana left over to do something else. And yeah, I think I like the way it was executed. I like the color pie as it stands. And yeah, I've enjoyed the set so far. All right, so Shane, thanks for being with us. We're bringing in Becky Bell the rest of the day. So if you guys enjoyed seeing her yesterday, she'll be back. We're doing Modern. This is Nerd Rage Gaming. We got a 5K. We'll be back in a few. Actually, let me just not say a few minutes like I normally do. Given that this round ended early and that there's internet troubles, I'm going to say it'll maybe be on the longer end of like 15 minutes or so. So hopefully you'll stick around through the break, and